Hey, I'm Scott Fresener with TVS Network, and I'm talking to my very good friend Richard Greaves. And Richard went to the SGIA show. That was first SGIA show I have missed, I'm guessing, in 20 years. I got sick the day before I was supposed to leave, hacking up a lung. Nothing guy wants to fly and sit next to somebody hacking away. And I only had to do a one on-show on floor seminar that was free, and I did the judging, which of course you helped out with too. So I decided I wasn't going to go, and I missed it. And so Richard said he would be Scott, take all the notes. I was going to have you do like a wide shot of the aisle that I could then green screen later, like I was there, like I've done in the past with my microphone. But I thought that'd be a little tacky and stuff. So this is my good buddy Richard Greaves. So, and you had a good time, I guess, didn't you? I mean, you probably walked
I
your
had a good
rear
time
off.
because I was seriously questioning, and this is a leitmotif for me, that I was seriously questioning whether I would keep going to the SGIA shows, except, I'm a member of the Academy, and that's always very good to get together with my pals there. You, of course, weren't there at the meeting. Once I get off the plane, as soon as I opened up my phone, it was a call from you and an email from Jonathan Vince of UK's Images magazine. It's really run by Kathy Hobson, who I used to write for, and I haven't written for them in ages. Said, "Can you cover for Scott because he was going to do the report?" So all of a sudden, I had a reason to live. I had a reason to go ask people about things, and I'll bet I saw so much more because I forced myself to go to booths that I normally would not go see.
It's funny. I go to the shows now, and I find myself I should go up to a booth, but I don't. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I know those guys, and there's probably nothing new. And I find myself kind of like you. I go to shows going, why am I here? I schmooze with people, and that's great, and see my friends. But other than that, it's odd. Maybe we're just getting older. We've been to too many shows, probably.
Well, I pay my own expenses. So, as I'm sure you do also, you don't
Hmm.
have a daddy
Those
to.
days are gone of anybody paid anybody's expense. Maybe Charlie gets expenses paid. I don't know,
I,
but
I'm doing two seminars for ISS this year, and I have to pay my own hotel and my own airplane fee. So that's a first world problem. But what
did you tell me you were doing seminars for ISIS? I don't recall you saying that.
um, I,
Maybe,
I,
maybe.
pitched, I pitched four seminars to SGIA, and they turned me down for all of those. And I pitched pretty much the same four seminars to ISS, but it was Pierre Yamnishi from Blue Moon
Mhm.
who pitched something where the two of us do a point counterpoint. He's the business owner, and I'm the
Oh,
intellectual
that
screen.
sounds good. That's a new spin, so they like that kind of stuff.
I, I heard about it, and now I have to, now I have to do it. So
Yeah,
we'll be in Atlantic City, and we'll be in California.
excellent. So SGIA, I read had I forget what I put on my website, 22,000 plus record attendance, 500 plus booths, and I haven't heard any negative buzz. Sometimes I'll write about SGIA, how great it was, and I'll get somebody going. It was all white format, Scott. There was nothing there for the T-shirt guy, and I wasn't there, but I'm assuming there was plenty for the T-shirt guy.
Well, anybody should go to the SGI website. And what's the banner there? It says supporting the wide format community. And when you look through the book, which of course the first thing I do is I grab two books, because the first thing I do is I tear the back out and all the rubbish that really doesn't matter, make it thin. That's the one I carry around. The other one I keep for a library copy. But there were 541 booths plus maybe the 10 that are in the addendum in the back. So let's just say 550. Um, but there are only 80 that I highlight in the book because I go through the night before and I say, oh, gee, I know these people, I know these people, I know these people. So there were 80 out of 550. That's like a 6 or 7 to 1 ratio. There's nobody in screen printing there that much anymore.
But were the
And
80
I,
garment guys, or some of the
no,
80
no, no, talking about
paint?
stuff, but screen printers, people that represent screen printing to me. Granted, there are plastics manufacturers that go both ways, like Cadillac Plastics or
Yeah.
somebody like. I'm just, I'm being a little snooty. I'm just grumbling a little bit. But for instance, I was reporting for Images magazine in the UK. Why would I tell anybody to come to the SGIA show from Europe? Because if they're going to make the airplane
I
flight,
don't think you
stick
would.
to nice, warm, sunny California, Long Beach, California, January, and go see the textile stuff there.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And then I think as FESPA has spread their wings over the years, it's been the foreign visitors. I don't think they come. I mean, I don't know. You probably saw foreign visitors, people you knew, but you know,
I used to see all my foreign pals at the SGIA show because they would fly in. All that's where I got all my European consulting gigs. Whereas now I look and I ask, I say, "Ooh, have you seen? Have you seen?" No,
didn't come.
and they're not coming at all. So I haven't seen John Mason in 10 years. I haven't
I
seen
don't think I have either,
Eric
actually.
Nicholson. You know, guys that I used to see regularly. I'd have a dinner. And we would do something. I would help them with what they needed, and I miss that. So,
So, being the interviewer now, because I wasn't there, what do you think was the thing that really rocked your boat that you saw? Anything?
well, I think I think there's a lot of reasons why I will go every year, no matter what. Um, One of the most important things that I think people should go to would be education. And I've been sorely dismayed at how education has just gone down the tubes. The paid seminars, there were only 4 this year that were paid seminars that really addressed garment people.
Oh, right, yeah, right.
But what's totally different now is that they have what's called a garment zone on the floor. Now, they've done this for perhaps the last 5 years.
Hmm.
And the garment zone, which is run by Jason Balish and Lon Winter of
Graphic Elephant.
Traffic Elephants in Denver, Colorado, they did a terrific job. They had a complete press setup. They had all they might want, and they stayed in the booth almost all the time and were answering questions. And I saw people able to come up and actually talk to educators instead of somebody at the M&R booth or the NASDAR stand or something like that. So I think that's a great thing. Plus, they're all free. Now, the cost of this has been that this year, as there was not last year, there's no industrial printing, no electronic printing, because now we have the electronic or the printable electronic and membrane switch. I mangled that up, but the printed electronics has 2 days, the day before the show and the first day of the show. I went last year and loved it. I am not an electronics printer. I did some electronics printing, but that's not what my strong suit is. My strong suit is still textiles and screen making. So I think that's gotten much better. I think the seminars were terrific. So you can see,
Did you go to any paid seminars? Did you actually walk in and
I did not go to any paid seminars.
so you don't know the attendance though?
No, I don't.
Because I know I did a couple last year, and it wasn't like the old days. Still, it was a ragtag room full of 20 or 30 people. Not like the days that you and I have done them, where there'd be hundreds of people. So even the paids now, I think maybe that's why they've gone to the show floor free zone stuff, because I think they call it now with the classic seminars, or there's a name for it. Maybe it's classic or whatever. I don't know if they draw anymore. It's crazy.
Look what's happened at imprinted sportswear shows and the printwear shows. There are no paid seminars at all anymore. You go on a special coupon. Impression's been doing this for years, where they do it for 99 bucks. Of course, I'm back speaking there again for the first time in 11 or 12 years, and but it's different. We don't get paid anymore. I'm not going to put as much effort into it as I would. Sorry, I'm still going to do it.
You're off the list now.
Gee, then I wouldn't have to fly to Long Beach and go drive to Atlantic City. It just Things have changed. But the trouble with the internet as a teaching place, because everybody gets their information off the internet, is that people helping average people gives you average advice, and you don't have someone curating, and you're not getting real experts doing the teaching. That's what guidance is really about, and that's what I think is going to down the industry quite a bit if we don't get better. If it's always the salesman, the old adage that when the salesmen are in charge, the product always suffers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the education was better. There's now a digital textile printing zone, which I'm excited about, but it's wide format digital textiles. There were some digital textile machines, smaller ones, individual machines like the new Epson F2000, but the textile printing zone was wide format. And all the
I don't think it was that way before, though. Maybe that's something that like a new trend or something.
I looked at every square inch of the digital textiles booth, and it was all wide format, not belt style printing, but
No, but probably some sublimation too, I'm guessing.
Oh, lots of
Yeah,
sublimation.
yeah. Last year
Now,
there was a ton of sublimation there.
that would bring me to what I think was my theme. I was on a panel. It was an experts panel, Stump the Experts. It was run by Rick Roth. And um, almost every question had something to do with polyester
Really?
and its heating. So you had a lady who worked for an unnamed major manufacturer who gets their products from Asia someplace, and she's then got to figure out a way to print without the dyes bleeding. And a man from Ohio, our old friend Pierre Yamnishi, who I spend an awful lot of time with from the shirt board, Pierre is having a problem printing on polar fleece. There's another man who was having trouble printing on dye sublimated camouflage. And there were perhaps two other questions. Within the hour and a half, the majority of the problems had to do with polyester bleeding. And guys like,
You know, we years ago we were on panels together. You would never have those kind of questions. It's funny how the fabrics have changed the industry, the performance wear and stuff, and how now it's very fabric related. And I even see on the forums and the Facebook pages, like a lot of the questions are, how do I print on this? And we didn't have that years ago. It's all changed so much.
well, I think because you've got so many different products. Now, everybody on the panel, everybody except for me, they all said, run away. How can the customer be worth it?
Now you can't do that, I don't think. It's
So,
it's the customer, it's the products. I mean, I don't know how you could do that.
all right,
I'd
so
be
here's what
great.
you can do with a show like that is that there are two specific things that were the highlights. Maybe I was in that frame of mind because of the polyester thing that was on the very first day, and we had to deal with that. But Pierre and I went around and we went to talk to old friends. So we went over to the NASDAR booth, which was the only stand from an ink company. Nobody else was
You
there.
told me that on the phone, and that blew me away. So Rutland wasn't there, or Rutland Union wasn't there. Uh, Nobody. I mean, and that had happened. There have been many years Union would not go. Just I don't know why. You know, you think that it would be traditional; they should be there, but
In the last 4 years, Union hasn't gone.
but Rutland had been there. I thought.
Yes, and they had some people there, but it's not the same when you have to find them. Whereas NASDAR had one of these lounge booths, a big gigantic stand so you could see where they were, but they had a few products on the side, but they had all their people there. So we went over to see Rob Coleman. And Rob, we pitched him on how do you print on multicolor on polar fleece? And he said, I love Rob is my friend.
I know.
Uh, let's
Yeah. Wait, moving
so
on.
and where to stand. So you can do this kind of thing. So we had to wait about 10 minutes to find Carl because he was talking to some other person. And so we talked to Carl and he goes, let's talk to Abby. And he reached over and Tom Abbey was right there. And Tom Abbey is the president of Magnacolor, which is what Rob Coleman has spent maybe the last 2 years. That's what I've heard more from him than anything else about how Magnacolors is the answer. But Tom Abbey didn't skip a beat. He didn't go, well, can't you, get another fabric in? No, he had a specific formula. Use a certain amount of this, a certain amount of that, do it with this. And he rattled it off. I wrote it all down, and boom, we have our answer. That's why you go to a trade show. So that you can talk to the president of an ink company who truly knew his stuff. Now, I don't know if Pierre's actually tried this stuff yet or bought this stuff.
But you're going to write about it, right? That's your next article.
I just said about it. I said about it in front of God and everybody and this audience.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we owe it all to Tom. Now, it isn't that Rob and Carl didn't know, or even that I knew, because I knew that you've got to kiss a lot of frogs. You got to try stuff. But the real problem, and this is what's important about this show, is that yes, the ink can solve it, but the real problem with polyester, as Mike Ukenna has been teaching us for years, has to all do with the temperature. And our conveyor equipment has always had terrible temperature measurement. It goes on, it goes off like a house thermostat.
Yeah.
And you're over, you're under.
You're over, yeah. And it overshoots, undershoots, and yeah, it's crazy.
Thermometers in the ovens that are in the air, or they're in the panel where it's 1,200 degrees or 900 degrees.
Wrong.
You're supposed to be, what's the temperature going through it? A certain speed.
You're on the same page there.
So here's the reason if you're interested in seeing stuff before everybody else, which is of course kind of my interest, is to go see the Brown Manufacturing Firefly.
Yeah, I
Now
got a news
Brown,
release on that. You told me you saw it, but I got a news release too, which kind of explained it and stuff. So,
so we've got pictures of it so people can see it, but everybody should go to the brownmanufacturing.net. They have an odd website. They've also got Brown Digital. They've got a couple of different websites, but brownmanufacturing.net. And a patent pending. They asked me specifically to mention patent pending.
right.
So
Now, we've known the guys at Brown for years, and of course, I think what was his dad's name? Wes. I mean,
West Harpole.
Harpold. Yeah. But I never thought of them as being. They're going to watch this and maybe be ticked off. I never thought of them as being totally innovators. They built gear, and they were the low price guys. But for them to come out with something like this, to me, blew me away because I never thought of them.
It's children they sent to college.
I see their sons are running the company. I know now. Steve and those guys. Yeah.
Mike Harpole. Mike told me, I didn't come up with it. In fact, if I fiddle with this equipment too much, I get into trouble.
That's so funny.
So I think it has to do, I don't know this exactly, but there were several sons in the stand.
Yeah.
And I believe that they brought back. Now, if you've been paying attention to their equipment, they had an oven called the Dragon Air.
Mm-hmm.
And it had some software that really ran it. And I did notice this, especially because it was so small, yet it did the job that it was supposed to. This thing has only got a 5-foot cabinet. And there's 5 foot of infeed and 5 foot of outfeed. But it's got from 1 to 4 alleys, you can only call them alleys, that are 24 or 36 inches wide. They're small. They're meant to fit one shirt only. And the heating unit is from a big quartz panel. And so we've seen all this before. We've seen quartz panels for 25 or 30 years. But there's a thermal imaging system that looks like something out of a sci-fi movie, that they've got 3 little panels on the side that show you what's going on. What I mean by panels, they're video panels. So you watch as the shirt goes in. Imagine, let me start from the beginning. There's a big TV monitor and code readers, just like you see at every grocery store now. And you aim at the work order, or you can aim at the panel, or you can aim at a piece of cardboard, whatever it is. But a barcode, so you've got keyless data entry, no mistakes. And let me just take this back a little bit. That forever, we've always been talking, or I've always heard managers talk about, yes, we told them to change the panel settings on the oven as it's going through, but they forgot and they ran it through at the same temperature for black shirts with white ink as white shirts with black ink. And then when they ran the polyester job, they forgot to change the settings, and it only cost me $8,000.
Right. I know.
Now, I'm sure this can still happen because if somebody doesn't change the barcode, but every work order can come with a barcode, or the TV panel or any piece of paper can have one of, I think, like 20 different programs that you have this color shirt with this kind of ink, and you just pre-program it. A boss can do it, and what you have to do is scan the barcode, and now every shirt will be measured. Let's say the shirt goes up to temperature much faster than the ink. When the shirt gets up to, I'm just going to say 300 degrees, it stops heating and it cools it down again. It cooks it, the ink and the shirt, so that neither goes too high, and each gets up to the target temperature. So there's no undercuring and there's no overcuring. I've never seen anything yet. This is not infrared probes that have to be tuned to the emissivity, because white shirts and black shirts and blue shirts and green shirts all reflect infrared energy at a different spectrum. That's why you can have infrared photographs. So this is the most exciting thing I've seen in 10 years. Just think of this, that you've got something like this that will cure water base. Any of the troublesome inks that we're getting now, cure water base, it'll cure discharge in 15 feet. 5 feet in feed, there's a cooling jacket, an air-blown cooling jacket at the outfeed. But it's just, it's so small. Now, granted, it's real wide, but space saving seemed to be the real key. Space saving was clearly an answer. Now, it's all in the software. It's all in the sensors. It's got a cool 32-inch television panel on it, so that You know, that's something we've never seen before, but we're
I
seeing.
love it. I love it. I love it. That's great.
So this is going to be for forward-minded people, but there are people that are printing on jerseys, people that are printing on difficult stuff, or as Tomasz Freszka wrote in one of his columns, that you need either really smart machines or really smart equipment. And the best shop is a shop that'll have smart equipment and smart people. Most people are starting out inexpensively, and they've got low education and low class equipment that you can't really control. The black shirt and white ink and all the bleeding things that we put to stop the bleeding of the dye. And t-shirts that are designed for screen printing, we've over the years eliminated all the bleeding problems, or at least the manufacturers who wanted to make shirts for us, they learned how to do that. This is going to help fix this. Mike Harpold ran a shirt through that had the number 33 on it. It's a red shirt. He said it was a bleeder shirt. It was an A4 shirt. He said it was a bleeder shirt with a regular white polyester. And he said this shirt had been through the oven more than 30 times.
And it wasn't bleeding?
No.
Wow.
So
I saw the picture. I didn't know the story behind the picture, because you sent me a picture of Mike holding it. We'll show it on the video, but I didn't know what the story was. 30 times. Wow.
I'm totally sold. It's a super jump for polyester printers.
And that hasn't happened in years. You would have thought years ago somebody else, maybe M&R, would have come up with something, but that seems like we're kind of old school still in a lot of those areas.
Well, you think of people, the lady from the top 10 shoe manufacturer company, whose name I will not repeat, and she says she gets these fabrics that she just cannot stop from sublimating. Mm-hmm. And she's really the problem, because she's a hostage. She can't do anything about it. And there are so many printers that are hostages because people bring in things for contract printing and you have no idea. I remember getting, in my earliest days, getting in scarves that had to be printed on. And of course, they said they were silk, but when they melted around 120 or 130 degrees,
I don't think it was silk.
They printed pieces of bacon when they ran through the oven.
Yeah. All right.
So the Firefly, the software in the Firefly, that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, check it out. Okay, so we have the latest dryer technology, which probably everybody will have in a couple of years or so. And what's new with emulsions or inks, or anything new other than that? Must be some new stuff out there. Of course, the ink guys weren't there, so we'll never know. Other than so.
Well, in my mind, I want equipment because it's a segue, and it's space savings. And I've seen a real resurgence of the ovals. Now, it could be that I'm just out of the loop and I don't know the patents have gone away, but I know MHM is announcing ovals at Long Beach. They did not have them at the show. We went to the stand and they said, we'll have 2 new ovals at the SGIA. And M&R introduced a new oval, the Striker. It's not that new, but
do you think it's space savings? I mean, I'm curious if it's couldn't be any easier to make, so that wouldn't be a reason to bring an oval out. But is it the narrowness? I mean, I'm just curious why.
Okay, so consulting client of mine, in the last 6 months, I go there and he says, I'm really trying to I got to put in another press. And where do we put it in? Usually I can look at a shop floor and I will see, it's like when a doctor sees you in an interview room. He can tell very quickly whether you've got it or not. Right. I can usually look over a floor and I go, oh, here's what we can do. I probably spent 2 hours and still came up with, you know what?
No room.
I cannot figure out because the room is square. There's no advantage. You haven't got it backward. I've had great successes in the past going into a shop. I went to a shop in Australia a long time ago. I stood on the mezzanine and I went, all the presses are going in the wrong direction. And I could not believe
that's what consultants get the big bucks for, isn't it?
I've never pretended.
The fresh eyes.
Because all the presses are going the other way. And I had lots of logic about it. And he gives me this, oh, thanks a lot. Yeah. But by the end of the day, got everybody together and say, we're working on Saturday. And this is a place where they put in copper and brass fittings. This is not water, air hoses in This took the entire day, and they had more plumbers and heating guys. We switched around, and everybody was grumbling until they saw now, oh, everything flows now.
Yeah.
because that's flow is in it, whether it's a restaurant kitchen or it's in your shop. So I digress. So
But so you think it with your more current one that with an oval where they could fit it in?
I I wish I'd thought of it because he wanted to buy more of his carousel round machines because that's what he's used to. But I think that if he replaces a couple of round machines with a couple of ovals, he will get so much square footage back. He will not have to move. He will not have to. It means changing presses, but that's cheaper than moving or a thousand other weird, really odd ideas of kicking the sewing people out and putting a single printing press inside where his sewing operation is now.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
So MHM didn't have one there though. They
no,
were
but
they were
have it.
talking.
Long Beach. If you want textile stuff, you should go to Long Beach.
Yeah.
If you want to see digital stuff, you should go to the SGAI.
Yeah.
So I like printing on ovals. There were real problems with the old precision ovals because they had one head. And guys like I that didn't grow up on that, we like to double hit a few. We like to have control. I wanted to go faster, but printed
Sure.
an awful lot of, people like Angela Jones could print, faster than you can possibly imagine on all the precision ovals she used to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now M&R's got individual heads, the Ultimate and the Alpha, and now this new machine, the Striker. It's got an innovative new chain system that isn't really a chain; it's a linear style. It's moved digitally now, and I don't know about the MHM, but it's just going to be, used to be Precision and Advanced, and now it's MHM and M&R duking it out.
Yeah. Where are the also rans? I shouldn't say also rans because I'll get kicked. People will yell at me for that. But you've got Anatol, and I don't mean also ran, but you've got Workhorse. Who else do you have in the autos?
Workhorse was not there. Now my favorite press is the one that I saw at Nashville, the Sabre.
The Sabre.
Silent, charming, inexpensive. I really like that one. Really like that one. S-Rock had their latest machine there as part of the Ryonet booth.
Right.
Anatol was way, way in the back. They actually, I don't know if that was not on purpose or whatever, but they were really, far in the back, and they had one press there.
They could have booked late. You book late and you get the Siberia.
I don't mean to castigate them because
right. No.
They were in the back. They were so easy to miss because you went through. There was kind of a cluster of some textile things before the lunch area. And then if you went further back, it was the knick-knack stuff, the lesser things. So if you hadn't gone to every aisle, you would have missed Anatol unless you were actually looking for them.
Yeah, no, and I've had booths like that in the past where I book late and stuff, and so who knows? Workhorse doesn't always go to SGI. I'm not sure whether it's just attitude, because that show, as we all know, has kind of been up and down, and sometimes the textile business doesn't do as well. But to me, if you're a player and you've got MHM and M&R, and your Workhorse is kind of the top three, you need to be there, I think.
Well, think of this. No ink companies except for NASDAR.
Yeah.
So I think I mentioned that already, so
yeah.
I mean to be redundant.
All right. Who was there for emulsion then?
Oh, everybody was there from emulsion. Now, Autotype, I'm sorry. The McDermott is silent when I say it. McDermott Autotype.
McDermott Autotype, yeah.
They didn't have a stand, but Neil Boulding was everywhere. I saw Neil every time I turned. I saw Neil. So
was he working out of his briefcase, or what was he doing?
A guy that I never met before, Ryan, who seemed very articulate and well spoken. Sati was there. Yolano Kiwa was there. They had certainly a better booth than they had last year, which looked like an ISS stand where they're just standing in front of it, but no stuff, no gear, no emulsions, just sort of lounges. Cromwell was there. I saw Mitch Orr.
Right. Yeah.
Mick Orr was there. I spent time at the Sati booth because of their new UV LED lamp replacement units. They've got two units. They're arrays, meaning that they're the little LEDs in an array, and they've got spacers around them, so they're like mosaic tiles where they put a bunch of them together. And
when you say replacement for like a new arc or for other exposing units?
When you look at the pictures, you're going to see exactly why they're shaped the way they are. The big ones are supposed to replace a 5K unit, so it's the equivalent to 5K. And when Ross plugged it in, he's just plugging it into a 110-volt plug that's right there.
It didn't go.
No, runs at 110 volts. So as a replacement, you don't have to have money that's been going in and all that energy. Just it hardly uses any energy at all. It puts out the equivalent UV. Now, it's at a much higher UV band than I was used to. It was in the, like the 400, 405 range. I did not bring my UV meter, but I will be taking my UV measuring meter.
Where do you want to be, about 380, 370?
Well, you need to have a broad spectrum because if you've got diazo and you've got photopolymers, they all, none of them are tuned to an exact frequency like WGN on your radio dial. You need a broad spectrum. So if it's too narrow, and that is what LED does, it gives you a very narrow
Yeah.
spectrum. But it's Ross Balfour who's doing it, and I trust Ross. He knows so much about UV energy.
Yeah. So computer to screen, I'm curious, was there anything new there other than M&R's got their whatever it is, what's it called? They won an award. I think they won Product of the Year, I saw.
The Product of the Year was the Starlight 2, which has been at the ISS show, so it's not actually.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen
it. It images in 60 seconds and cures. They've been using Ulano Orange, a very fast exposing textile emulsion. And as it comes out of the machine, it cures it, and it's literally done and ready for washout. The thing that I mentioned about Nashville also is that I've seen all sorts of screen washing and cleaning equipment. They seem to have also had a resurgence. It used to be that you'd never seen a screen cleaning or screen washing system that actually worked, whereas the new ones do. I know I've been considering whether or not it's worth the, let's say, $25,000 or $35,000 for a washout machine just to wash out screens, but it begins to make sense if you've got a high volume shop, because having a man stand there, having a person stand up there and giving it a shower, screening for a shower, whereas each and every one gets exactly the same water bath and recycles the water. You're not wasting water.
It seems so archaic. I think our industry can be at times, when you look at that, somebody just doing this, and don't you think it just seems like we're still in some areas in a very archaic manual, as opposed to the big factory with all the bottles going around and everything. I agree with you. I think that now that they work, even the the panel guys. I'm having a brain fart here. Where we saw,
Sherlock.
We saw the squeegee cleaner at Nashville. I thought, how many times have you and I sat there with a rag or something or a scrub brush and scrubbed? I was just doing it last week at the boot camp, thinking I need to get that Sherlock thing. Automate this.
You need that guy you should always hire is the cleanup guy.
Yeah, now I'm going to tell you a story, and if you tell anybody else, I'll have to kill you. Well, this will be on video, and I'll probably have to cut it off. But my wife helped with the class last week, and she was there cleaning squeegees. She said, "Don't tell anybody I was cleaning squeegees."
You said it, I didn't.
I know. I should have a picture of that. So anyway, hey, speaking of that though, I am. Because I've been around the block a few times, and I've worked in shops consulting where they had computer to screen, but never been in a shop where they had two of them. And I had some students from a huge factory, I can't name the name, in Honduras in class last week. I mean, we're talking a factory. They showed me pictures. You've got to look at like a baseball field of automatic presses, football field, but they had two CTSs, and they said that they can't mix jobs. There were identical machines, same manufacturer, but they can't image some of the screens for a job on this one and some on this one and have it line up. And I'm thinking, wow. And now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm out of the loop on that, but I had not heard that. But I never knew anybody that had multiple CTS machines, computer to screen.
I've always known that the people that were serious have to have two of them, because what if one breaks down? And they always
I agree.
do.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, why would they not? I need to probably talk to M&R and I'm just curious. So these guys were saying they could not mix jobs.
Well, that kind of bothers me, although it seems like it would be natural to, if you're running 6 screens or 12 screens that you need, you'd run them all on the same machine.
Yeah, but that's what they do now, because they can't. I guess from a production standpoint, they get bottlenecked, and they were trying to mix jobs. They couldn't do it. So we'll have to research that. Another topic, another video. So.
But you're also talking about my usual joke is that it's a first world problem, We've got so many presses, but Honduras is not a first world area, except when it comes to screen printing, it seems.
It's huge. This fact, I can't name names, but this is a huge, huge factory. I'm going down there. I just got to see it in person. They have two alphas. What they say? The alphas are 26 heads.
Yep.
Maybe they have three alphas. I forget the count. And I forget how many, 30 or 40 of the M series, and then 30 or 40 of the other M series. So.
The biggest press I ever worked on was a 32 head precision, where they had taken two 16 head precisions and latched them together.
32? Really?
Yeah. And they just wires. They didn't, whoever bought them and shipped them to Fiji, can you believe it? In Fiji, this 32 head machine, it took them almost a year to get the machine to operate because they had to figure out how to actually do it. But these were some of the best printing on dark printers I've ever seen.
That's shocking.
In Fiji, all alone, by themselves, in the middle of nowhere.
We need a picture of that. So what else was revolutionary? You sent me on a smaller scale. You sent me Vastex has a coating holder, which you would think everybody would have, but they don't.
I see people all the time holding a screen and coding, and
we've all done it. And some guys tip it this way, some guys tip it this way. They hold the encoder this way.
I see a little 2-year-old boy with a knife trying to poke it into an electric socket when I see that. I see a dead person on the side of the road, and no, don't do that. It hurts everything. I, for years, have been telling people, just get a small shelving unit, put a 2x4 in the wall, and just wedge the screen in there. That's the world's cheapest, but this is $300. It bolts on the wall. It doesn't take up any space. It's spring-loaded, and it's got all these adjustments where you turn and twist the holder, lift it out, and you can make the screen holder larger.
Well, it's affordable. It's affordable. I'm surprised at the price. Wow. See, that's what was the problem in the past. It was always way too much and overbuilt, I thought, but for $300.
Now, when you look at the stand, Vastex sells a stand, but the stand's got 4 legs on it, and no matter what, there's no stand in the world that you can push against. You need to mount it against a wall, and I'll bet you it's maybe only sticks out 8 or 9 inches. I think
it's get one of those for class. Yeah, that's smart. Mark's smart. He's got the LED stuff now and all that, so that's good. That was good to see. So what else was new?
Well, indirect garment, you mentioned that. You've got 2 larger printers now, the M-Link from M&R and the Belket Genesis, all spelled in capital letters, as Jared told me.
And were both of them running, printing shirts? Because sometimes that's kind of, you see the new cockeye and it doesn't always work. Looks good.
These are new, bigger adult machines.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing my age, but you've got the Volkswagen, but then you got the Porsche. Yeah. You get your 4-cylinder, now this is a 6-cylinder. It's a bad analogy, but these are more industrial. So think of the word industrial. These are not your starter machine unless you're real serious. These are more expensive, but these industrial machines have new industrial heads that run the Artistry Bright DuPont new textile inks. So what is the brighter? It's brighter.
No, I asked you when we talked after the show, did DuPont have any side-by-side samples to show, or anybody, of the older DuPont and the new? You said you didn't see any. Nobody was kind of doing comparison. Well, I would have had a comparison. This is the old goop, this is the new goop, but I'm surprised.
You and I would have had that, but no. When I asked both the companies whether or not they had any comparisons, I can get you something, but I think the key is that I saw these machines running, and yep, they're beefier. Mm-hmm. They're definitely faster. I think the interesting thing was that I watched it print white and colored ink in a single pass.
Right, yeah.
But I think the key that most people don't really understand is that you can really cure these in a conveyor oven. This ink, the new Bright, Christie Bright ink, you can cure in a convection oven, a conveyor.
Right.
And you don't have to heat seal each and every one, because all these extra steps really load up on your press time.
Right.
So I was impressed.
So do you know any price points at all on the M&R?
I'm thinking it's in the $35,000 to $50,000 range, but right. No, I'm I'm not a price point guy, so I apologize for not knowing that. I
Yeah,
leave
I'll
that to
find out. I'll find out.
salesmen.
I wish
But
I would have seen that. And
clearly, it's a step up. But people that are starting out, they need to still think about the regular machines, the machines like the what is the machine that you like?
well,
The Epson
I use the
2000.
Epson F2000, and I love it. Actually I did a class at the boot camp 10 days ago, and the machine kind of got brought back to my storage area and sat. Last night I thought I better fire this thing up. Fired it up, did a head cleaning, did a nozzle check. I think I had 99 nozzles out of 100. I mean, basically, I mean, it was all there. That never would have happened in any of the other brand. I mean, my machine, it would never would have happened. So I'm high on it, but I think there's new stuff coming out. I think someone told me once that they thought Epson being in the game kind of gave it credibility, and I think that could be it too, though. That helps the whole DTG people that run the fence. I had a screen print customer who I've known for years, and I did a little update on my Epson article on my website that I took it out to an event, helped the thing, ran it. This guy is a screener. He emails me right away, Scott, I think it's time for me to buy one. And that was always when I was doing TGS, my goal. How do you get the screener to say it's time? And so I think Epson's gave it credibility, so, but anyway, so we'll see how it shakes out.
I can't imagine running a shop without one.
I think you'd have to have one now, if nothing else, for the short runs, the samples. And if it can sit for 2 weeks and not worry about the white settling, then that solves most of the problems.
Well, I
So
think it was Greg Kitson or somebody who said that, every day you need to run it. You print off a few samples so you've got them ready to go.
yeah, and
It's not that.
Greg was a holdout for years. Greg looked at my stuff for years, but then he finally did it. But you have to just look at it like your embroidery department. You've got your screen department, your embroidery department, your DTG department. I think you have to have it. So we'll see. So what else new? I mean, I know you're not a DTG guy, so you've got Belkett, M&R. Anything else new other than DuPont Ink that you remember?
Cornette, Cornette had, a big machine, but it's basically the same as their Avalanche has always been. I don't know if they had a new one. I didn't see anything new, but
They promote the Avalanche though, and I could be wrong, but I look at their news releases and they promoted the new. I think it was the Avalanche, like whatever the next generation, as doing 200 shirts an hour. It's a lot of shirts.
mhm.
I follow the links to the websites, look at the videos, and I'm thinking, there's guys. Where's the 200 shirts an hour? I never understand that. I have to research that. I was blown away by their claim to fame of the 200 shirts an hour, but boy, their videos don't show it. Unlike
Now,
the HV Pro that I had at the show, that sucker was printing shirts. Anyway, I'm not banging on Cornette because they're the players. I mean, you get into bigger shops, a lot of guys have the Cornettes and love them and run them 24/7. But where's the 200 shirts an hour?
and they've always got a machine running at the show, whereas Peter Choi from All American, he,
The
he's,
Aeon wasn't running.
this is
I
the
keep
fourth this is the fourth show I've seen this machine at. It's never running.
I was at a show once where I swear Peter's going to kill me for this, but I swear the shirts on the machine, because they had shirts on it wasn't running, but there were shirts on it, and Peter had his other Neoflex next to it. I swear that the shirts on that Aeon machine came off the Neoflex and were just there for display. So isn't that odd though? I think I first saw the Aeon. How do you pronounce it? I call it Aeon, whatever it means.
Yeah,
I think I
yeah.
saw it 4 years ago, and I reported on it then. I interviewed those guys. I thought this was going to be the hot deal. So what's happened in 4 years? Not much, it looks like.
It must cost a fortune to bring a gigantic, heavy machine like that into a show and then to not run it. What's the point?
I don't get
So
it. I
I
don't
guess
get it.
people see it, but if it won't run, why pay all that money to ship that machine to Las
And you
Vegas?
never hear any buzz like you usually might hear of somebody that owned one, like it or not, but you never hear any of that. So that's too bad. They're nice guys. I just don't know why it's taken so long. Whether it's ink delivery, because they promised, 400 or 500 shirts an hour, or whatever their claim to fame was, but you got to be pumping ink through those heads really fast. I don't know. Be curious to see. Every show I went to in the last few years, I went to see if Peter Choi or somebody had that machine running so we could see it.
Well, not yet. I've never seen it running.
Too bad.
In the digital venue, the software is something that I saw a lot of. Firefly had their software that really runs the oven. I love that. M&R has always had management reporting software in their presses, but they're coming out with a new one that works on a server. They're going to call it KPI for Key Product Indicators. Now, I have to guess that this is probably named based on the close relationship that M&R has with Greg Kitson and his KPI group. And this is something that Kitson has been at the forefront of reporting and understanding your key product indicators or key production indicators and measuring what you should be measuring. I know he and I are doing a seminar in January, probably before the Long Beach show, at his shop, in which we're going to combine my screen printing expertise with his key product indicators. And
you're talking Greg Kitson, by the way. I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm talking.
No, it's okay.
Kitson.
But you're talking Greg, which is where's he at?
He's
Decatur?
in Indiana,
right.
300, not 300 miles, 167 miles from where I live. So the new KPI software from M&R will run on a server. And what that means in this, the end of everything, is that you can access your production information from any internet capable device, tablet, computer, whatever you can get on the internet. It's all web accessible. So I don't know how people are going to use it. I don't know how many people have been using it, the software that they've been running in their firmware all along, but it's something that I think is real valuable. It's something that I know that the workhorse people are really pressing also, that they have web accessible and they're using they use a Dell Venue tablet on their Sabre machine that has a portal that you can look and see what the press has been doing and is doing, and look up work orders and job orders. I don't think that's the same kind of software, but the modern era is coming with digital panels, you know, the big, gigantic 32-inch TV that's on the Firefly. It's a trend that I see. Look to that because these things are so much less expensive now.
M&R was talking about it, but they weren't showing it. I mean, it was just...
No, they're going to show it. It's going to come out in January. They were talking about it, and there is a press release, but it's very mediocre. So it's only going to be announced for real, or will be available in 2015. So it's still 2-3 months away from being able. The key is that you can use it on a server. So if you've got 2 or 3 M&Rs, you don't have to go each individual one and have each one wired up. They'll wire it up anyway. They'll be able to be.
Yeah, I love that whole. It's very trendy. The whole
on a server.
Cloud wireless. You know, on the same topic, though, tell me about Greg Kitson's group then, while we're still talking about that stuff.
Well, his KPI group, which he named KPI, and I asked Rich Hoffman about this. Oh, KPI, did you name that again? Did you name that because of Kitson's group? And he said we were very influenced by his group. Kitson's KPI group which is 10 or 15 different shops that are dedicated enough to pay money up front to join a reporting club, in which they have software that analyzes different shops' statistics without naming the shop. So it's a blind study, but you can see what's happening around the United States, and their idea is to pair up people. Somebody that's doing real well in one area could help somebody that's doing not so well in another area. For more information, you just have to go to the KPI site, which is a branch of Greg Kitson's Mind's Eye.
Is it KPI.com, or do you know?
I'll have to add that in.
Because I know, because Greg is mindseyegraphics.com, so it may be from there. But you think he's getting some traction on this whole thing? Because we talked about in our Nashville review that it was kind of new and select group, maybe had to be invited to even get into it.
Well, you need to be invited just to know about it. I've told people as possible about it. The dashboard software that they've come up with. Again, I talked about this in our Nashville review. They've since come up with dashboard software that just works in Google Docs, but it's a very, very sophisticated Google Docs that you punch in your numbers and you get graphs that are telling you all sorts of things that you wouldn't know without graphs and meters and percentages, that sort of thing. I think it's very sophisticated, especially because it's being done in Google Docs. In their spreadsheet.
I love Google Docs. I use Google Docs for all kinds of stuff. Now, did they have a meeting there? Do you know?
Well, I know that I attended a dinner where all the people there were, KPI. We talked about a lot of things. Again, polyester seemed to be what we're talking about.
So then they went in the back room after the dinner and smoked cigars, and you weren't invited because you were not part of the group.
I believe several people, after they'd had their dinner cocktails, were on their way to the the zip line up near the Golden Nugget in old downtown Las Vegas. Small things. I've got a lot of little small things now. Femore has a new low-cost squeegee blade. Femore blade is a premium blade, and they do not compromise at all. So it's definitely a world brand. But they're now for textile people. They're recommending it for textile people. They've got a new low-cost blade. It comes in triple durometer, a hard center, and then a softer outside sandwich style blade, and
Which
just
they've had
regular.
for years, but it's just lower cost then.
Look at it for a little less expensive.
Yeah.
My favorite blade has always been the blade that Majestic and Vasati Americas has distributed, that is molded square. But the Duralife blade is what
Not
I've
a
always.
triple, a single durometer.
You can get all sorts. They're all, but see, they're molded square, and I never sharpen my blades. So I've always been a heretic in that I don't want to sharpen my blades because I do not want each and every blade to be a different height, because each and every time I have a different spring in my blades. So I'm not a blade believer. But I've also always been a plastisol printer, and plastisol is like salad dressing.
Yeah,
It
I know.
can do anything to the blades. So
don't you find it funny though? I'm still bugged by this no ink guys going. You got squeegee guys going. You got emulsion guys. You got fabric guys. Other than NASDAR, I don't know why, but you would think that the squeegee guys would stop going because the show is so little screen printing other than garment. You think the fabric guys would stop going. I just find it odd. That's all.
well, when you go to a show like this and you're outside and you pass the other hall, the South Hall, and it's a solar energy conference, and they had 4 times as many people as we did.
Wow.
And everyone, oh, what do you mean everyone? Everyone is wearing a suit.
My suits are getting lowly. Yours probably too. I don't think did you wear a suit?
I've worn it more than.
I know, that's so funny.
So it's they get so many people. We get 22,000 people, but when you go in, all these digital people are also wearing suits. So they're old school. It's still big business, and it isn't the crafty printing era that we're used to in the screen printing world. Now, I'm not trying to make fun of them. I'm not trying to make fun of us. I'm just saying it's a different kind of a crowd.
That is funny.
The screen printing crowd versus the digital crowd.
We did our boot camp 2 weeks ago at the convention center here in Bowling Green, and it was cool. But there was another seminar going on autism or something, and people were dressed and the speakers were wearing suits and ties, and I just had to chuckle because that reminded me of how we used to do it, but not anymore. But it brought home that people still do that. There's industries and people still wear a suit and a tie, and they go to work every day and probably do that. And we're just different. So what else is new? What gossip? Can you gossip? Can you gossip? Can we talk?
I got one other product that I want to.
I'm ready.
For this is a product I've known about for ages, and it's Ship Packs. That's spelled SHIP-PAQ. I'm walking by the booth, and there's a Ship Pack stand. When I was the product director at Lawson Screen Products from 2000 to 2005, I discovered this particular tape, and it's platen tape that you put on a platen, and it's 2-sided tape. In the olden days, meaning back in the 1980s, tape called Fason E as in egg, and it was a positioning tape for upholstery, because I'd seen it in the upholstery world that I was in North Carolina, and it had different grades of adhesive on both sides. So you'd put it in place, and then you could move the upholstery around, and that was the whole idea. But I used to use Fason E, which was very expensive, and this was the first product I'd ever seen that was better than that because it was much, much less expensive. But ShipPack couldn't supply it to me on a regular basis. So we'd have it, I would sell out, I'd buy as much as I could for Lawson, sell it, and then we couldn't get it for 2 or 3 months, and so I had to give up. I also used to use contact paper, the contact shelf lining paper, and I would spray that because I never wanted to spray on it because it takes so long to clean the platen. So as a barrier, to be able to just rip off, that's always been the scheme. Well, they clearly had it again, and I quizzed them about, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I haven't, I haven't been worried about it for a long time, but they clearly have it, and they have a water activated tape, so it works just like any other of the textile adhesives that we use to hold shirts down. So I'll have the on the website where this is, the YouTube site. I will have the address.
Now,
I'll put it.
where can they buy it though? From
Well,
Ship Pack Direct?
Ship Pack, direct from Ship Pack. I don't know if any distributors are selling it or not.
Right, right. I'd be curious to see
Other,
that
other
because
store.
I'm still surprised at guys that use spray. I mean, we use even spray in class because it's easier. But we put the I forget where we get it from, and I'll probably get kicked for not remembering. But we get the sticky single sided
Mm-hmm.
pallet wrap, which works
Right.
great. I'll have to think of who gives it to us. I don't know. All right, so gossip. Firings, let's see how we call gossip. Firings, hirings, who's sleeping with who.
I saw my old friend Larry Cope, who's had many jobs around the industry, digital style, and he told me that he's now the president of Acti Cameras. And I said, Acti Cameras, they used to sell and still maintain gigantic room-size cameras. They made little cameras too. They're from California, but they now have digital stuff. But what I liked is that he told me about an article that he wrote for Specialist Printing magazine, which is an English-based magazine that really, costs $70 a year to ship it here, and they only put 3 issues out. I'd written some articles for them in the past when I worked at Gelano. But Larry told me that on his website, which is acticameras.com, that on the right, on the main page, there's a reprint of an article that he wrote that's called The State of the Art in DTS and CTS, which is direct to screen and computer to screen, and read it for the history of inkjet. He's got pictures and references to the original inkjet printer, which is used as a teletype printer in 1858.
Shocking,
how RCA had one before the turn of the century. So we should all know that inkjet has been around for a lot longer than we began to imagine.
Yeah.
You discovered it and changed the world.
Yeah. I'm going to read that. I went to the website because I hadn't heard of that name Acti Camera in a long time. And of course, their brag is they made how many thousands of process cameras in the day.
Gigantic cameras, bigger than a house sometimes.
Yeah.
Gigantic cameras.
Yeah.
So in the gossip, I had read, but not really. I didn't really drink it in until I saw some people that Emily Thompson has resigned as the editor of Printwear magazine. She's being replaced by her assistant Carly Holman Long, who I've never met before, but she's been with the magazine for a little while, I guess. So Emily went on to another trade magazine. I don't know what that is. In the gossip, Bob Wellen wasn't at the show. It was a Tommy booth, and seems to be that he's had some sort of a falling out with someone. I don't know. Bob Wellen was always a good source for me. I knew him when he worked at Gelano.
Been around for years. I mean,
so
a lifer in the industry.
I don't know what happened, so I don't like it as a gossip. But I had a great talk with Alan Buffington. We talked about all the things I would have talked about with Rob. Your go-to guy now, or my go-to guy now at Murakami is Alan Buffington.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've known for a while that Joe Catazone is no longer the union national sales manager with their big move down to North Carolina. Whatever happened, he's 24 years. He was with Union Inc. He'd worked for NASDAR to their Teterboro branch before. That's when I met him, when I was a Stretch Devices guy. And he'll be missed because he was my go-to guy at Union. Now it's Mike Buchanan. Mike gets all the calls now.
Joe's a good personal friend, and he sent me an email before he resigned or whatever it was, saying he didn't want me to hear it through the rumor mill, but I haven't been able to find out what he's doing now. I know he had a little side supply business, which I think maybe is what he's doing, but that was kind of a shock. Although I know Joe was not too happy with how some of the things shook out, and of course they closed the Union factory there in Richfield and laid off 50 or 60 people, and some people went down to Rutland, but it's too bad. I think it was inevitable though. I think the change didn't sit well, but life goes on. But a good guy.
Well, it's sad because I lost my go-to guy there. If I had any union questions, he was the guy that I could go to. and I respected him a lot.
Well,
Still,
Mike,
still respect.
Mike Fresener is a union dealer, and so Joe was Mike's go-to guy. So when Mike
Ah,
and it went to Rutland was like sometimes 2 or 3 weeks out on shipping. I mean, they really extended their shipping time, and I
mm,
mean, and even on white and black, and I'd be like going, what? Don't you have any white and black in stock? And they were like, we're gonna make more goop. And Michael's, they're like, so Mike would always call Joe, say, Joe, what's going on?
who's
So
got some I can borrow?
yeah, we just need some white ink.
Also in Rutland news, Brian Lassard, who I never had any actually dealings with, but he left Rutland also.
I don't think I knew him at all.
He was a guy that used to work for Rick Roth, and I read
Oh,
about Brian when Rick Roth wrote a printwear profile of him as a wizard, as an ink master, and then I did know that he did go on to work at Rutland, but he's changed and is now working for MHM, also down there in the
hmm.
Charlotte, North Carolina, South Carolina area. So it
Well, that
was
makes sense. So that's what Rick has. So that makes sense that he would probably know a lot about it.
now Brian was going to be on the Know It All Experts panel that I was on Wednesday. I wasn't going to be in that, but when Brian did not come to the show for whatever reasons, I was asked to substitute. That's I got calls from at the airport. Richard, can you
You
do a
were
panel?
good. I tell you, I'm not going. They call you to say if you'd be on the panel. I'm here.
I could show up.
Yeah.
In Academy news, the Academy of Screen and Digital Printing Technology, Rich Hoffman of M&R, and David Eisenbeis of Keyworld Ulano, and Vince Cahill, who's been a screen printer for many, many years. I actually sold him one of my old Aero multi-printers in the early 1980s. That's how
You're
I met
you're
Vince.
killing me. It's so old. Aero multi printer. So,
He's done, and he has a vinyl distributing company, and he's very um, um, influential in the digital head and digital printing industry. And that's one of the reasons that I'm sure that he got nominated to become part of the Academy, because we need more people that really understand digital. And Vince is that guy. He may not be as famous as the other two. The other two, of course, captains, huge captains of industry.
I think Vince is pretty well known though on the digital side though, because you talk to Vince about
Yes.
print heads and he spews it out. I mean, he seems to be fairly well connected because I've used Vince up for a couple deals, and Vince and I have talked. Of course, we all have known Vince for years, and we know he sings opera and wears a bow tie and has his quirky side, but he seems to be
Yes.
pretty well connected in that whole area.
An interesting gossip, I saw Andy McDougall of Vancouver, Canada, wearing a tie. He was working the RH booth. And
Did you
I
have
want
that
to,
urge to take your scissors and just cut it off?
no, he must have had a reason to try and look like one of those executives from the digital era.
Hmm.
But we teased him a lot. But Andy is the guiding force, the North American force behind the Swarmstead Award winner this year, which is Guido Lengweiler's History of Screen Printing, which is a gigantic
It's a great book.
four-pound book,
Yeah.
sells for $110, but it is the history of screen printing from its earliest days, especially here in the United States, until the beginning of World War II. So it won the great David Swarmstead Senior uh, Award for merit in screen printing. It was unanimously elected to be the most important technical
Hmm.
writing of the
Yeah,
year.
there was nobody. I mean, it was like decided by all of us. I think that was why have anything else be nominated. Basically, kind of like that was it. You know.
Well, on the list that we have, and the email list that we have amongst the Academy, it was very quick. What about Guido's book? It was yes, yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
yes,
yes.
yeah. I was. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
unanimous
No,
within 24 hours, so that
yeah,
was it.
yeah.
So the Academy, I think the biggest things that the Academy is doing is they're again pushing student education, and Johnny Shell, who leads that, along with Ashley Armisen, is they're the ones that are leading that now that Dawn Hall is no longer part of the regular SGIA SPTF crowd. She retired from them. So Johnny Shell's doing all that.
Hmm.
But in that schooling, I was a judge for Golden Images, and I was a judge for the student competition with Denise Brayard and Marshall Atkinson of Visual Impressions in Milwaukee. Marshall came in way before we did and judged, but Denise and I walked through the judging together when all the other Golden Images uh, um, contest was over. And I saw amazing art. I shouldn't say art because it shouldn't be an art contest. I saw amazing printing, good printing, well executed printing from students,
Mhm.
which is just always, it makes us feel better. Now,
Oh,
the
you
big
love it,
school,
but and you look at who the teachers are. A lot of times, every year it's the same guys. It's the guys that really get it. I don't know if you've ever judged DECA, or I've judged some local stuff here, and some of the kids bring in their little wood frames, a little tiny squeegee. Then you've got teachers who get it, who
mm-hmm.
teach them what's really happening commercially, where those kids could leave and get a job in a screen print shop. But yeah, I judged a student last year, and I was blown away by some of the shirts. It was just like, these are students. Who's the teachers? What you want to know. So anyway.
Now, I also did a lot of judging of digital, which, you know,
Is it out of register? She's only about that.
but I got to do it with Mike Ruff and Dean DeMarco of IDL, and I got to spend 3 hours with those guys. So that's, that was well worth the judging, just to hang
Hmm.
out with those guys because they're giants in their field. But I was a little curious because as a fresh new digital judge, there's a section in there for registration,
Hmm.
which seems to be a carryover from other times, because can there be 10 levels of registration in a digital print? I,
I don't
it
think so.
seems it's
I don't.
in register or it's not in register.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
plus or it's a pass or fail, not really a grouping of 10. So I think that was our biggest difference in that if it was in register, wasn't out of register, it was a 9. For me, all those were 5s. So that's something I think we're going to have to battle out. But I don't like it to become an art contest. This is something that Mr. Newman has always, that it isn't the art because you can see some awfully pretty stuff that looks terribly printed. And
Hmm.
some things like, some people didn't like the Pepsi signs that we judged very good, but the color was perfect. The color reproduction was very difficult to reproduce. And so sometimes we actually have to explain. I am planning on contacting all the schools, or through the SGII, I'm contacting the schools offering to help and Skype with them, just as I'm doing now,
Hmm.
to run a regular class. When I was at Ulano, I ran a class every Friday morning at 10:30 to 11:15 to screen printers for about 6 weeks. They were from Pennsylvania.
I
And
had no
that was
idea. I had no idea you did that.
easy to do. If you got a TV in
It's
your
easy with
room, you
Skype.
got a camera. Oh, this is a $100 camera that you and I are using. So
Well, I can
I'm,
be on the one on my computer with me. I mean, the one I'm using now is better, so I probably look a little older because you see my wrinkles. But other than that, so
oh, that's the problem with high def.
yeah, I know. So you didn't judge the Golden Images textile. That was Charlie and Lon and somebody else to judge that.
Right. They're qualified people. They were qualified people that judge a textile. So the big winner this year was a print from MIDI Print of Moscow, which is Artem, who we both know. He was not brought into the academy last year, and he brought a whole bunch of his staff from Moscow last
Great.
year.
I've known him for 20 years, but I've never really probably had a conversation with him because his English is so poor. But it seems to be the commonality of screen printing, so you can talk about shirts and point and stuff like that. But this guy's a great. You remember his print last year? It was 150 line. Maybe, I don't know if you saw it or not. 120 or 150 line halftone. You couldn't see it. It was a Jimi Hendrix print. It was a magnificent print.
He must have had 8 or 9 Hendrix prints last year. This year there are only 3 Hendrix prints.
Hmm.
But I think what's interesting about some of these people that are printing in Europe that you don't see here in the United States is that they're printing all sorts of different substrates. The print that Artem won the best of show in textile was a picture of a black blues musician where you could see his hand holding a trumpet, and you could see every pore of his skin. And when you ran your hand across it, soft as silk. No hand at all,
Yeah.
just a beautiful print. And it wasn't one of the many images that win for their difficulty, the high density prints that you get from Turkey, from Empas M Prime or Terum Print Tech in Turkey, that they're the high density buildups where there's 90 screens. Yes, count them, 90 screens, but only 12 prints in the
Yeah,
image.
production of two. Yeah. I'm sure
Now
Artem's
you get them.
was probably production stuff. I mean, I'm sure that but the high density stuff is always blows me away. How many prints did you print? 5. It's craziness.
Now, if anything that I was blown away by or disappointed by was that there were so few real entries, that there just weren't as many. Sometimes textiles are in 4 or 5 different of those panels that they've got in the Golden Image Award.
Yeah.
Just not so much this year. But people like Empas and Prime from Istanbul, they must have had 16 images that were cut pieces. And so they had, they boatloads of stuff. So they had more stuff than anybody else. And if you'd only put in your best stuff, there would hardly been any dark prints or especially, process prints seems to have completely disappeared. Andy Anderson, of course, he took the first, the second, and the third, the gold, the bronze, and the silver for his print of Taylor Swift.
He wants me to go down and visit him, and I asked him if he was going, and of course he said, "No, I'm not going. I'm not going this year." I don't think he ever goes. Probably.
Well, he was here last year because he also just got into the academy,
Yeah.
but he did not show up. But again, when we were in Nashville, he invited me over, and we spent 2 or 3 hours revisiting his shop and going through every square inch of his shop, mostly the motorcycle shop underneath. So.
I'm thinking as we talk that Andy Anderson and Artem, I'm thinking, are probably. Wouldn't you agree maybe that they're probably the best printers that we have going right now? I mean, maybe there's other guys doing really good work, but Artem is just over the top with the softness and the detail, and Andy has always been that guy that would fuss over that little on the flesh tones and stuff. So I think those guys are, they're probably the best printers out there.
I agree.
So what else was new?
The other printer that I was definitely impressed with was the from Bogota, Colombia, that also won the Best in Show for textile, and it was a who was it? It's from SENA. I don't know how to actually pronounce that, but it was Mauricio Mendoza Sanchez, who he said I'd met him before because he used to work for Luis Ledesma down at.
You've been to Bogota, haven't you, doing consulting?
I did 2 or 3 consulting trips to Bogota and went to the Textile Congress in 2006. In fact, from the Textile Congress, I actually Skyped back to New York City, able to run cameras. They had terrific Wi-Fi inside inside the show.
Yeah, I don't think anybody from Bogota has won. I just I can't think of who has won a golden image from Colombia in a long time.
Well, again, this was a school, and it was Endir Roja Basta who won the another gold gold print. Now, it doesn't look that sophisticated, but it has 4, 5, 6 colors. It's all perfectly in registration, and I love it that it isn't just the Americans that are doing it, that we're getting our ass kicked when it comes to what they're doing in Mumbai, what they're doing in Turkey.
So next year they're going to be in Atlanta, and then they're going to be in I think it's New Orleans, maybe it's Orlando. But I think it'd be nice if SGIA would do like other shows and just pick Las Vegas as a home, because look at the 22,000 plus attendees, 500 booths. I think Vegas is probably the draw too for a lot of guys, and so I'd like to see them keep it as a home. I don't think they will. I think they're going to rotate now. I think between New Orleans, Orlando, and Atlanta, and SGI and Vegas, that's the only place that can handle a show that size. So they've got to pick cities who can handle that show. But I'm sorry I missed the show, and I'm glad you covered it. And I do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. You're going to have to shovel snow tonight, aren't you? Aren't you getting the Arctic blast?
So we would have gotten the Arctic blast. It's 63 degrees out today.
I think I'm about the same here.
Breaking leaves.
I'm still in Bowling Green, and my wife and I are driving back to Scottsdale. We were going to go this weekend, and we look and go, Fort Smith, snow. Oklahoma City, snow. Albuquerque, snow. So we're not leaving until the first of the week,
Bowling Green in your living room, 72.
Probably so, yeah. So I went last night to Walmart. Then we'll wrap this up. I went last night and I bought the shovel. the fold-up
Oh,
shovel, and my wife thinks I'm crazy. I bought the shovel, I bought the ice scraper because I'm from Arizona, we don't have that stuff there. So I'm ready to go back, but I'm all ready with my winter ice kind of stuff. And I bought the de-icer for the windshield. So I'm now you know about this stuff because you're a Milwaukee boy, Brooklyn, but I know nothing about this stuff. So
I
anyway,
used a scraper already this year, camping on a Halloween camping trip before Halloween. So came out to the van and scraped it off. My
okay,
girlfriend Gina and I, we camp at the Comfort Inn.
that's about my way of
Go
camping.
back to where the family's camping in there at
my
the
my quick scraper
campsite.
story. I'm doing a class in Richfield, New Jersey, and it's snowing. And I get out of the car to do something. I come back, and of course the car door. Scrape the snow off, and of course the car door locked behind me. It's snowing out. The engine's running. I can't get in the car. Some guy there at this place I was at, I think a convenience store, says, "I'll help you." A truck driver. He gets in and he breaks into my car. It wasn't even my car, it was Richard's car, of course. I was from Union Inc. And so that was my experience. So I had this fear now of not having a scraper because I was using a credit card back then. Anyway, got to run. Enjoyed talking with you, and I will try and hook up with you again. Maybe come down and visit me for Nashville for the ISS
Okay.
show. All right.
Oh, definitely, definitely,
Yes.
I'll come
All
back
right.
to
You
that.
take care. Thanks, Richard. Bye bye.
But I'll be putting in the show notes. I will put as many addresses and links as I can.
Okay. Good deal. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.